Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smaulgld Subscribers Sound Off. Today I have a new guest and someone I've been wanting to speak to for quite some time. His name is John Moore. He is the Vice President of Nationwide Merchant Solutions, which is a payment processor. And today we're going to be talking about, perhaps as you can tell by John's shirt, we're going to be talking about Litecoin. John, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Oh, I'm very pleased to have you on. I saw you at the Litecoin Foundation Live give a very compelling presentation to the people in San Francisco about the uses of Litecoin and how you got into it and why you are passionate about Litecoin, especially given your position as a person working in the payment processing systems. Now, our listeners, many of them, have been interested either tangentially or they're passionate about following the price of Bitcoin. They look at trading patterns. Other people are really interested on, we've had some great guests talk about what Litecoin means in the economic system. What's the impact on central banks? What's it mean for the unbanked? Then we have people that are really interested in the technology of Litecoin, Bitcoin. They're interested in the idea of peer-to-peer exchanges, decentralized exchanges, how blockchain works, lightning networks, atomic swaps. And my perspective has always been, I've been interested in those things, but for a lot of our listeners, it's what's it good for? Like for me, we've got cash, we got credit cards, we got debit cards. Why the heck do we need this new money? And what happened to me was, that was my point of view and why I really didn't pay, well, I paid attention to Litecoin and Bitcoin. I wasn't sold on it until what happened in India when the president of India went on TV, Modi, and just said, guess what, everyone, by Saturday or Sunday, the money you hold in your pockets, unless you turn it in, isn't going to be worth anything. And that's when I thought, well, wait a minute. The one thing you can't do to Bitcoin and Litecoin is just call it in and say it's not worth anything anymore. But I still thought, okay, that's a bad thing and that's a good reason to have something that they can't pull away, but you could do that with gold and silver. But when I was listening to you, John, you opened up an entirely new line of thought and you answered the question, what's it good for you? So can you just give us a quick background on how you got interested in Litecoin? And also for our listeners, they're going to want to know whether you're just a crypto head or whether you also like precious metals. So please take it from there and let us know what your view is as what is Litecoin good for and how it impacts your job and how you service your clients.
So I'll start out with saying I do like precious metals. I like gold and silver. I don't like them as much as Bitcoin and Litecoin, but I do like them. And cryptos is what got me into precious metals. So it's like I'm kind of one of the few people that you'll meet that got into cryptos first, and many kind of found out about precious metals and the real value behind them. So actually, I'll show you guys right now. I just picked up before, I got a 10-ounce bar of silver. I think silver is going to take a nice move upwards. So yeah, I definitely am a fan of that. So let me tell you guys how I got into Litecoin as a means of payment and got into liking it and investing in it. So I'd known about Bitcoin for kind of a while, but I didn't ever buy it originally. I kind of said, I don't know. I didn't understand it. So I had the reaction probably a lot of people have. Oh, isn't going to be a haven for money laundering? And it's kind of, you know, the bad connotations behind it, I guess, that most people would have. The beginning of 2017, I kind of had gotten like fed up with the regular payment processing business. So that's the business that I'm in. I'm a merchant credit card processor, and I've been in it for about 10 years now. And I loved the credit card business for a while. It was a good business for me, and I kind of had that hat on of like the mainstream financial system. And I started opening my eyes up to a lot of problems that were going on around me. Just a lot of different things happening that they did not add up to me. Different types of fraud and identity theft that I was seeing like on a daily basis. So when I got re-hit with cryptos and Bitcoin, somebody kind of came into my office that I'm in now and showed me a Litecoin transaction. And we actually looked at it on the blockchain on like Block Explorer. And it was just like a light bulb went off in my head. And I was just like, as a payments guy, I was like, we are out of business. I said, oh my God, this is far superior to anything we have. And I was just blown away. I ran around my office. I said, guys, we're out of business. And I really like got into the stuff. I started buying into it and really trying to learn everything I could about cryptos. And I really fell in love with Litecoin because I just saw it as a payments coin, and I was in the payments business, and it's kind of what I gravitated to. And I just saw the need to put the good message out there. A lot of people in America, they feel like Bitcoin and Litecoin is like a stock. So a lot of times I talk to people, I say, oh, I lost money on that stock, or my shares of it went down. So I try to just correct them in a nice way and just say, hey, it's actually a currency and a payment network. It can be looked at as an investment, but you don't have to invest in Bitcoin or even think it's a good investment to want to accept it for payment. So this is kind of the message that I'm trying to put out there. Like, regardless if you think Litecoin is going to go to the moon, like I think it's going to go to the moon. I'm very into it. I own it. But regardless of what you think, it is good for payments. There's no denying that. So it's to try to get the right message out there for people. People don't understand, like, well, how is it good for payments? Why is it better than like PayPal or a credit card? So I really see kind of the behind the scenes. I see all the problems that exist in the existing payment system. So I kind of know like what problems it solved and why it's a good form of payment. So that's kind of my agenda every day that I wake up, is to try to put out there the right noise and to let the public know, hey, this stuff is good for payment. It's not something to fear. It's something everybody should embrace. It's a tool for the public to use. Look at it as a form of digital cash. And it's just, it's a modern version of silver or gold. It's like, silver 2.0, I guess, is what I like to say with Litecoin.
Thanks for that introduction, John. I've always been very impressed with the people that are working on Bitcoin, Litecoin projects, because no matter what the price is, and you mentioned that, some people look at it as an investment, and perhaps they lose interest in Litecoin and Bitcoin if it doesn't Lambo, it doesn't moon or whatever. But you mentioned that you don't have to even be interested in Litecoin or Bitcoin as an investment. You have to look at it from what's it good for. And what I'd like to get into now is precisely in your business, what is Litecoin good for?
Perfect. So credit card payments were never designed to go through the internet. So you're kind of asking for problems when you pay for something with a credit card online. Not so much as the customer's end, more from the business's end. So this is very important to clarify to your audience. I'm a merchant payment processor. I help the business process the payments. So I'm looking at everything from the angle of the business that wants to receive money into their business for their items and goods that they sell. So think of Litecoin and Bitcoin. They're a digital form of cash that's designed for the internet. So the whole thing is that, Bitcoin solved the double spend problem, right? And what that basically means in like layman's terms, it means that when you send a payment through the internet, you don't hold a copy and then send a copy off. And basically there's two copies created of the same thing. When you send Bitcoin or Litecoin, you're actually sending your ownership rights of that little, like I say, a little bit of a coin, hence Bitcoin, a little bit of the internet that was created. You're sending it off to somebody else. So the whole thing for payments, what makes that good is that you cannot have a chargeback. So again, the public doesn't really understand what these chargebacks are. So what a chargeback is It means if the business accepts payment, and then after that payment occurs, they get the money taken back from them. This could occur for up to a 6-month time period. So this isn't typically a problem for like a deli or a little restaurant or maybe a convenience store, but it is a problem for people that sell expensive items like jewelry, appliances, electronics, and especially people that sell stuff online, because online opens up the door for a lot of credit card fraud. So again, if you like we were just saying before, you don't have to think, you don't have to say, hey, I don't want to invest in Bitcoin or Litecoin, right? Well, if you have a business, that's up to you if you want to invest in it. Talk to your investment advisor, whoever you trust, see if it fits into your plan of investment. But you should definitely take it for payment, because it allows you now to take in cash essentially from somebody from anywhere in the world for a very low fee, and you cannot have one of these credit card disputes or chargebacks. So it's a huge deal for a business to not have to worry about losing money after a sale occurs.
Well, here's another question, just sticking on the merchant side. Also, let's talk about fees. So I have accepted Bitcoin and Litecoin on my site, and I also accept Patreon and PayPal. And I notice if someone sends me a Patreon or a PayPal and they send me $5, I get like $4.38. If they send me a Litecoin, I get the full, pretty much the full amount. That must be attractive also to people who are doing large or even small transactions, not having to pay the payment processor.
Right. So I mean, the fees are a huge part of it. I mean, merchant fees add up, and what the public doesn't realize is we end up paying for it in the cost of our goods. It's just that credit cards are so used now by the public that it's not something that's really being itemized. But we'll start to see it with like credit card surcharging and stuff, which is being rolled out pretty heavily across the country, where merchants and businesses will start to surcharge the credit card fees back to the public. You already see businesses that you go into where they say $10 credit card minimum. Mm-hmm. And if anybody wonders why they say that, it's not that they just want to be mean and not take the credit card. It's that the fees are higher on small transactions. There's a lot of upfront fees. So, you know, it's a huge advantage if you take in Litecoin on a couple dollar transaction. You can accept Litecoin for free. You know, the person sending, it changes the dynamic of the payment. The person making the payment pays. So in the case of Litecoin, it's very cheap to send Litecoin. It usually costs 1 to 3 cents to send a Litecoin payment. So if you send a couple bucks, usually you're only paying a penny. Where in a normal payment, the business pays all the fees. So then I get the question, well, John, why would I want to use Litecoin? I want to hodl. I don't want to use the stuff. I'd rather use the credit card. They're giving me like rewards points to use the card. So everybody's correct. As of right now, the system's set up where it gives you the reward and incentive to use the credit card. However, we're going to see a point in time, and it's even happening now in certain businesses, where they'll give a discount to pay with Bitcoin. Actually, your audience will like this. If you go to jmbullion.com, and I challenge everybody, go in there and place a sample order. You don't have to actually buy it, but just go in and fill out the, like go in to buy like a gold bar or a silver bar. You'll see a price if you pay in credit card, and then a different price if you pay in Litecoin or Bitcoin. Or they actually just take Bitcoin, that site. I'm sorry. Some of the gold and silver sites take Litecoin as well. But the other thing is as well, they'll also let you buy up to $250,000 worth of gold and silver if you pay with Bitcoin. They'll only sell you $5,000 worth if you pay with a credit card.
Now, why do you think that is?
Because the main reason is because of fraud. Because gold and silver are very sought after by thieves and people committing credit card fraud. So again, high levels of fraud with credit card payments online. Zero fraud can occur in a Bitcoin or Litecoin payment.
And there's no chargeback. I mean, somebody could buy the gold, right, and then say they don't want it anymore, and then they charge it back. Whereas if the merchant gets that, what was the limit on JM Bullion for Bitcoin?
$250,000.
That's not going to get sent back to them because they've already got their $250,000 worth of Litecoin. So from
they're guaranteed to receive the money in. So it's a huge it's a huge factor.
Here's another question: how fast does the confirmation of payment of a PayPal or a credit card take compared to the confirmation of, say, a Litecoin transaction, John?
So, and this is what's kind of not known with what's kind of misunderstood with the credit card business. Like regular credit card payments, they're not finalized when you go swipe the card or put the chip in the machine. It just creates an authorization. At the end of the day or at the end of the night, the credit card sales do what they call capture the data, and they settle through. So like if you process credit card payments and you look at the reports, it'll say, settlement. So think of Litecoin the same way. When you send the payment out, you see it on the receiving end instantly, just like you do with the credit card payment. There's no waiting around. It settles and is finalized after 2.5 minutes. So that's the huge difference, where the payment is finalized, done, no questions asked after 2.5 minutes, where at that regular credit card payment, it's not done till hours and hours later, and the money's funded through usually the next day or something. Now, another thing I'll bring up, which a lot of people don't realize, if you tip at a restaurant, so the bill's $50, you like the waiter or waitress, you want to give them $10. So now the credit card sale is going to be $60. Does anybody wonder how that payment changes from 50 to 60? Like, does it just change automatically? So the public, a lot of times when I ask them this, they don't know. They just are like, I don't know. They're like, oh, well. So it's an honor system, right? You go in as the business and change that sale. There's nobody looking over your shoulder to make sure you did it correctly. So trust me, they make mistakes on this all the time. We just had a customer that went to do a $9, the tip was supposed to be $9, and they read it wrong, the server or manager supposedly. I mean, maybe they didn't, who knows, and they put through $900. So they got an extra $900 with their credit card sales, and then obviously their customer complained. So again, the credit card payment system is an honor system. Honor systems, while it may seem nice and admirable and convenient for people, thieves and criminals take advantage of honor systems. There's no two ways about it. If there's a way to have where an honor system is allowed to thrive, there's major league fraud that occurs behind the scenes.
Well, even in that example you gave, I remember you gave a similar example in your Litecoin Foundation presentation. You mentioned that even if everyone is honest and upfront, it's not as simple as smacking your head and say, oh, I'm sorry, it was supposed to be $9. I charge you $900. Let me get you that $900 right away. And I think in the example you gave, the woman had to pay her rent, and it wasn't as simple as, what happens? How do you get your $900 back, even if there's no fraud?
Exactly. So it's, it doesn't, you don't move the money back in this situation right away, because when credit card payments are processed, two banks are talking to one another. So the bank that's on our end has to send the money out through the Federal Reserve, and then then the money has to be resent to another bank. And I don't know if your audience knows it or not, but banks do not have our best interests at heart. So They obviously sometimes keep the money for longer than they should. They're holding the float, whatever reasons they have behind the scenes for doing this. But it's not a speedy thing by any stretch of the imagination. So usually on a credit card refund, you're looking at 4 or 5 business days before it's everything's kind of reversed and sent back the other way.
Now let's go back to the Litecoin payment transaction. The advantage of the Litecoin payment transaction is that it is, in a sense, trustless in that it goes through the system. It gets confirmed, and that's it. It's been confirmed. But what happens in the same case, I go to the restaurant, they accept Litecoin, it's a $60 meal for the party, I want to add $10, and accidentally, instead of putting in 1 Litecoin, I put in 10 Litecoin. What happens in that case, because the transaction can't be reversed, other than the honesty of the restaurateur to send me back the 9 Litecoin?
Again, think of it like cash. I just handed you $100 by mistake. I meant to give you 10. And then they'd say, okay, in that case, it's a judgment call. Did they give us 100? Did they give us 10? Like I've seen that situation so many times with cashier.
Oh, right. You can't prove it.
Right. So now with Litecoin, at least, there's proof. Because I can say, hey, look, here's the transaction ID. And the most important thing to realize with this, you can troubleshoot any transaction right away, which for me as a payments guy, like helping people with payments, is so priceless, because with people's own like accounts and stuff, we struggle to get information, even us as the company. And like, it's just like, it's so hard to go through these security checks and clearances. So with the Litecoin transaction, I can just say, yeah, look, here's the money right here. It just got sent to your address that you have posted right there. And there's no denying it. So it's kind of like, unless they're a complete jerk, they're going to say, hey, look, we're sorry. We're going to send it right back to you. And then they just send the money right back. So it's actually a much easier, cleaner process. It's just that it kind of scares people, because people say, well, what if this happens? What if a mistake's made? Well, think of it just like cash, and a mistake's made. The person's going to give it back to you. And with this, take it a step further, you now have actual physical proof, which in my mind, proof always trumps out on that honor system.
I agree. Now, that's a very good example where you're working with someone. But what about online? So I want to buy, let's say, JM Bullion. I want to buy that bar you bought there. And if I use the credit card, and let's say, let's not use JM Bullion, but let's say I send it on eBay or to an unscrupulous bullion dealer, and they send me tungsten for my transaction. They don't send me what I want, and I've already sent them the Litecoin. If I had a credit card, I could easily have my credit card company reverse the transaction. Now, this is where you get into why it's not a good thing for the merchant, but in some respects, it's a good thing for the customer to be able to say, I'm buying something online, I don't know who this merchant is, and I know that if he sends me tungsten instead of gold, or he sells me silver-plated bars, I can have that transaction reversed. Are there systems in place, not necessarily in, once you send Litecoin, but are there escrow type systems that you can set up for payments using Litecoin so that you have that buy with comfort?
So here's what I see happening, and I see it where stuff, think of eBay. If you've bought stuff on eBay, right? Mm-hmm. When you buy on eBay, generally you're going to look for somebody that sold stuff. They might be a top-rated seller. They have good feedback. I usually look through, especially if it's not just a vanilla item, if it's something that's used or something that I'm concerned about. I read through the feedback and I make sure they're good, right? So with the world becoming more digital and more online, people are so worried about their internet footprint and their digital footprint that I see everything going to more of these rating systems. And then the company will be so worried about having a bad rating in that rating system that you got to remember, if you come into my business and I screw you, well, maybe you tell 10 people that I screwed you, right? And those 10 people tell. But generally speaking, it's not going to affect me much because it's like, hey, it's not broadcasted everywhere, right? If you screw somebody online, it's broadcasted to the world. This has a really damaging effect. So I see that happening where buyers in the future will have such confidence because they'll say, hey, look, if you don't treat me right as the customer, I'm going to in turn give you bad feedback and bad reviews. And I'm going to go on to your part as such and such consortium of sellers. You don't want a bad blemish on your record. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, too, take it from the other angle. When you're the business and you're constantly worried about fraud, you have to treat your customer with a certain level of suspicion. Now, in an e-commerce transaction, we don't usually see it because you go in and buy something online and just kind of ships out organically and they don't really have much interaction with you. But think of a business where maybe you buy a refrigerator and you're shopping around a few stores and you're talking to those people on the phone, and you want to, as the person selling, be able to give that customer the best customer experience possible. If they're paying with a credit card and you're fearing fraud, you're going to have to treat them with suspicion. You're going to be like, hey, can you send me a picture of your face? Can you send me your license? Can you do this? And then the customer is going to say, well, why are you asking for that? Someone else didn't ask me for that. Do you think I'm bad? Do you think I'm going to steal from you? So I see all those factors like changing the dynamic of how things are done. And it's just gonna be a paradigm shift of what we're used to.
John, as you were talking, I wrote change the dynamic. and it's exactly what you're explaining, how commerce started out with the concept of caveat emptor. It wasn't, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to charge it and my credit card company is going to take care of it. And the idea of also being responsible for your own money. I mean, there's a big, and from the merchant, who they want to do business with, how they view the customer, how the customer views the merchant. Now, there's another interesting anecdote that you mentioned during your Litecoin Foundation presentation. You just explained how everything is transparent for purposes of looking at the transaction. But what's not transparent is precisely what you might have been buying unless you leave notes. And you'd given an interesting anecdote about when you want to buy something for your wife using the credit card and you want it to be a surprise. Can you retell that story again, please?
Sure. So I'm one of the things that I say why Litecoin and Bitcoin are good for payments, because they give you some level of anonymity. Now, if you're a major top-level criminal doing major league like money laundering and racketeering type of stuff, and the government can maybe track you through the blockchain-based tracking, but for general people's purposes, Bitcoin's anonymous or Litecoin's anonymous. If I send money to somebody, you can't look in my wallet and say, hey, why are you buying liquor? You're supposed to not be like drinking or something. You know what I mean? So I tell people
So in that case, all you would see is 0.013 Bitcoin going out to another wallet. You wouldn't see to Joe's liquor store.
Exactly. You just see it went from one wallet to another. So I always tell people this is big, and people say, well, gee, John, like, what are you talking about, buying drugs and bad stuff? And I tell them the story about my wife. I say, no. I say, are you married? And do you share accounts with your significant other? And people say, yeah, sure, we got the same check-in. And a lot of people, especially nowadays, the husband and wife just share every credit card. My wife's on all my credit cards. So, and my wife's one of these people that always checks the account. She's way more on top of the bills than me. I tell them, let the credit card companies wait. I'm in the business, but she wants to like pay everything right away. So she monitors the bills all the time. And literally, I can't buy anything around the holidays because she sees it. And she always tells me, I don't want nothing for the holidays. Save the money. Let's just get the kids stuff. We gotta fix the door. Let's put the money to that instead, right? And that's not like a romantic thing. Like I've been with my wife for a while, and it's like I feel like, gee, John Moore is like Mr. Boob when it comes to romance. Like he's not giving you the warm and fuzzies. So I tell the story about the flowers because I bought my wife flowers one time, and I paid on my credit card. Before the flowers even got there, she said, "Who'd you buy flowers for?" I said, "I got them for you." And she's like, you got ripped off. Why'd you get me flowers? I don't want flowers, this and that. By the time the flowers came, I was literally, I think we were in a fight. I was ready to throw them away. I wanted to throw them in the yard. So I got her flowers another time from petalsonaStem.com. And I paid in Litecoin, and she had no clue there. She actually said to me, "How'd you get this? I didn't see the charge." I said, "Aha! I paid in Litecoin. You would never know."
Right. So now that transaction is transparent, but what it actually was is, other than a real good sleuth, isn't going to figure out where, or even then, might not even figure out that money went to buy flowers.
They would never know. I mean, again, they could only pick up on like patterns of large criminal activity. It's not. They can't tell your one payment went to like a flower store because this goes to a private wallet, you know. So it's definitely a cool thing. Now people say to me, "Well, John, why don't you just go to a flower store and hand them cash?" Somebody told me that when I told them that story. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm an online shopper. I don't go to the store to buy nothing anymore. Like there's a reason Amazon is so popular. People like this experience of buying stuff from their phone and their computer. They don't want to take the time out of their day to make that stop at the store. And again, in my situation, how am I going to get the money to make what if I go to take money out of the ATM? My wife will say, "What do you need money from the ATM for?"
Exactly. Well, also, John, the point you're making is sometimes you may not even live near a flower store to be able to go pick them up when you need to have them.
Exactly. So it's and there's a lot of other gifts. I mean, buy a gift for your significant other. Now you can buy a nice gift, and they don't know that if you're married to somebody and around Christmas you see like $500. $800 charge from like a department store, like a jewelry store, they're going to be like, "Oh, they got me a piece of jewelry." No, it's coming. Like this, my wife knew one time I got her something. She goes, "Oh, I know you got me this." I said, "How?" Because, "Oh, I saw the charge and then I just figured that you would get me this from there." And I was like, "Oh, great. I'm happy that it was such a surprise for you, you know?"
All right, before I let you go, two more questions, or one specific and one general, and the specific will lead to the general, I think. I saw on Twitter the other day, or maybe it was today, you had purchased coffee. I think the company, this isn't an advertisement, we're not getting paid to advertise this company, but I hope they enjoy the fact that we're giving them the free exposure. I think it's called Hodl Coffee.
HODLfuel.com.
HODLfuel.com. Okay, and what you were showing was, actually this one you weren't even buying. Yeah, you did. You bought the coffee online from HODL Fuel. They send you the coffee, and then you were showing how you could be a real cheapskate and make your own Keurig with the coffee by packing it in there yourself. Now, my question on that is, a company like that sounds like they're actually, it's obvious that they are catering to people who have cryptocurrencies. And I'm wondering if you're seeing a lot of that, because if that's the case, I wonder if they even do they accept credit cards, or they...
He accepts credit cards, but he's obviously catering to the crypto people and the crypto community. Now, I have a website so a lot of these websites are done through Shopify. Like I help people make Shopify sites, and Shopify is really good for integrating that Litecoin and Bitcoin payment button. So You could be a merchant and say, hey, I want to sell online. I want to use Bitcoin, but it seems confusing. I don't want to have to learn about it. Great. I can configure it where the payments come in and just kind of like automatically converting into US dollar for you and funding to your bank account. You don't need to be like a genius with knowing how to use crypto. So he does accept credit card, but I have a website where I sell paper, and I do not accept credit card on that website. And the reason is I'm giving rock bottom prices. This is to hook up the crypto community. And if they want to, this is for those people that say, well, where do I spend the crypto at? There's nowhere to, none of my vendors accept it. Every retail business uses thermal paper for their cash register. Mm-hmm. Restaurants use tons of it. Go online, buy it from me. My price is going to blow away everybody else's price. I give a discount to everybody that pays with Litecoin or Bitcoin. And I do not take credit card. And the reason is I don't want the credit card fraud. So I'm fearful if I sell large orders, I'm selling online, I don't know the people. I just don't want to have to, I don't want to have to worry about it. So here I am, a merchant payments processor, not accepting credit cards for my own online business. I mean, what does that tell the public?
Well, let me ask you, let's try to solve one final problem here. I sell merchandise through Smaulgld. Now, here's my problem. You try to see if you can fit this through as a payment processor. I sell Smaulgld mugs. It's an inside joke amongst our listeners and followers that mugs are real wealth. Mugs have been drinking vessels for 5,000 years. Mugs can't go to zero. Okay, and I have 2 mugs, and what I had to do initially, and I still do it, those mugs I went out and I bought them from the manufacturer, and I keep them in my house. And when people order them, they could pay by credit card, they could pay by Bitcoin, they could pay by Litecoin, and I have no trouble taking the order, accounting for it, and then shipping them out myself. However, there was demand for travel mugs and espresso mugs, Smaulgld mugs, t-shirts and the like, and I was not willing to spend thousands of dollars to then have those products shipped, because who knows whether I'll sell all of them, and I don't want to, I'm not running a warehouse and a shipment. So those products are ordered through a company called Zazzle, where they make them on demand. However, they don't accept Bitcoin and Litecoin. Is there a way for somebody who wants to buy something from that Zazzle store through some type of system to pay through an intermediary that will then send that company the Bitcoin or the Litecoin, or the value of it?
Yeah. So you can, there's a place called bitcoinsuperstore.com.
Okay.
This is really like everybody that owns Bitcoin needs to know about this. They charge a 2% fee. So you're going to pay a 2% surcharge on the items that you buy, which if you go to sell your Bitcoin or Litecoin, you're going to pay a commission to sell it anyway. So if you're going to spikes, you might as well just turn around and buy something you need. Yeah, and you could buy anything in the world. So you can go on there and you can go stuff from Amazon, from all over the place. So I'm pretty sure you could definitely shop through those guys, utilizing think of Bitcoin Superstore as like a front end service to provide you the platform to pay with Bitcoin or Litecoin for any item that you want in the world.
So then they're like a payment processor. They act as an intermediary for crypto payments, and then they convert it, and then they send the merchant, my manufacturer, the money.
Exactly. They just tied with APIs or whatever behind the scene. One thing I want to get out to your audience, which is really important to know about making crypto payments. So I want everybody in your audience to download Loaf Wallet if they can, right?
It's the Litecoin wallet, correct?
Exactly. And it's a non-custodial wallet, meaning it gives you the 12 seed words. It's on your phone, so it's a hot wallet. It's exposed to the internet. Don't keep your family fortune in there, but I always keep a few Litecoins in there. It's very good for making payments. So when you go to make payments, like if I buy something from your website and I I buy one of these mugs and it's in your shopping cart and I go pick Litecoin as the payment option, it's going to kind of convert the amount I have to send, and it's going to present me with a QR code, right? If you use Loaf Wallet, you just simply open up Loaf Wallet and scan the QR code, and it automatically pulls in there the amount of money that you're going to send over. So you don't have to type in the amount of Litecoin to send. It's just like if you made a credit card payment where you buy the items and it kind of tells you what you're paying. You're not saying, hey, I'm going to pay $10 with this credit card towards it. No, it charges the whole thing. So it's kind of important to know, because people say, well, what if I send the wrong amount, this and that? If you're using the right types of apps to make payments, you're not going to send the wrong amount, because it's going to pull the amount in there for you automatically. And it makes it really easy to shop and make that actual payment. There's very few steps involved. So I just wanted to get that out there. Everybody should try to get this Loaf Wallet downloaded, because then it's just good for adoption. If you have that on your phone, you're more likely to use Litecoin for payments. And that's ultimately, if people see that Litecoin and Bitcoin are meant to be used as real money first before they invest in it, they're going to know what this stuff is for. Mm-hmm. And when they do decide to invest in it, they're going to invest the right way. They're not going to panic when it drops in price. They're going to say, hey, it's down in price now, but this is a modern form of a payment. There's something to this stuff. So, and
that was good. That was my last question is, where do you see the payment of the future heading, and how long do you think it'll be till you have this? So the question I get all the time is, they say people aren't really buying it to use, they're buying it for speculation, or they're just a bunch of geeks using it. But when do we get to the point where there's this practical? One use that I see is just on my own website. I do a live webinar every night. If I left that QR code up there and people had Loaf wallets, and I asked for $2, $5 tips here and there, people wanted to do it, they can continue to listen and just hold up their Loaf wallet and send the and they would do it right there for them. But I could see that, and that's fine. That's my small little audience. But what about larger scale adoption? Where do you see that heading?
So the timeline is a gray area for me. I'm a guy that thinks it's, I'm very aware of like sound money and the national debt, and I am worried about the banking and financial system. I can't really necessarily sell that way to people, because people say people don't even understand the dollar's not backed by gold anymore. So It's kind of like hard to get down that rabbit hole. So I say the timeline, I mean, this thing could start to take off next week because of problems that happen in the world, and people realize, hey, we need Bitcoin and Litecoin like now to transact. Or it could be like years and years. You could be looking at like 10 years before it's really used widespread as a payment. I see it more online adoption happening than the in-store stuff, because it's ready to go online. Like your website's integrated with that payment button. My website's integrated with the Litecoin and Bitcoin payment buttons. Hodl Fuel's integrated. And we could have merchants. I have a lady right now that's going to be processing Litecoin online. She doesn't even know what it is. She just said, hey, cool. She doesn't get chargebacks. I told her I'm going to promote for a little bit on Twitter and try to help her sell some items. She'll get she'll get a little bit of publicity from it. She was like, okay, great. That's awesome. Helps her get the word out there. She's excited to take it. She doesn't own Bitcoin. She doesn't know what it is. She's not keeping the stuff.
Right.
She's just going to use it to move money from A to B and have the money go to her bank account. So I think in the future, you're going to see a lot more people just want to accept it for payment, because they're going to realize, hey, I can't get fraud. And just so I think you'll see a lot more online stuff. I don't know if you'll see the retail stuff adopted right away, unless there's more if there's more problems that go on in the world with currency crises and stuff, and it's being more used. Yes, then you will see the more demand rise for it. One thing I'll tell you guys about that I see as nobody's really going to talk about this, right? but I'll tell you guys about it.
Is this not suitable for work?
Everybody, no, it is, but it's kind of like just kind of gets overlooked. Football gambling is a huge thing. Like, people love to gamble on football, especially in America. It's just right now, everybody, like, you know, you're at the water cooler at work, people are talking about their fantasy football, the game, their bets, their this, their that. Everybody that gambles online uses these particular websites to do the gambling through. They don't call Gino the bookie to make the bet anymore and let him, like, break his legs generally, right? They're using online services. So these online services all use Bitcoin and Litecoin as a form of payment. And not only are they using it, they're advertising to you as the customer that you should consider using Bitcoin because it's superior. So I'm seeing a lot of people that are being exposed to it when they normally never would, but they're being exposed to it because they like to do this football betting and gambling. And they're saying, hey, my gambling website uses Bitcoin. And they know in their minds, gee, this is a type of money because it's the gambling website says they can pay us out in this, or we can send money to them using this as a payment method. So I feel like this is really good for adoption because people are being exposed to this, like, almost like in a subliminal manner, like people
Right.
that never would ever think of buying Bitcoin. My uncle, 73 years old, we were hanging out in the summer. He loves to gamble, so to bond, we're gambling together, and I said, hey, Big T, I bet your site takes Bitcoin. And sure enough, they actually took Litecoin. So I said, hey, watch this. Let me send money to you, your thing, and we'll put in some bets on some horses. And he goes like, he's like, well, how are you going to do it? He was so kind of confused. At the end of, I lost, of course. I'm sorry to say I'm not a good gambler. I did not win. So I had to send money a couple times. By the end of sending money like a third time, he goes to me, John, I want to buy Bitcoin. I want to get me one of them Bitcoin wallets, he tells me. I said, well, Big T, slow down. Why don't you try to win in gambling first, and then we'll let them send you the money. But people are, the fact that he's 73 years old, and he's actually saying, hey, he wants the stuff because he saw it in action. He sees that it's good money and real money.
Yeah, well, it's the same with the telephone. I remember my grandmother, even, you know, because she didn't grow up with it, the phone would ring, say, Louis, what am I supposed to do? I said, you pick it up, you say hello. But, you know, eventually people, they grow up with a telephone. Now, you know, you hear people, they say, just pick up the phone and call them. And like, it's the most non-technological thing you could do is make a phone call. That's what they tell salespeople. How light is that phone? Pick it up, make a call. And I guess that's what I would expect, you know, if things go the way you're talking about and how useful it is, people will just be sending payments and having Bitcoin and Litecoin transactions just because it makes more sense than this whole banking system.
And think about it I love that you brought up the phone. Now, you know, younger people don't talk on the phone anymore. They text. Right. Young people won't. I got friends, they won't talk to me. They'll text me all day long, though. So now you've seen a simple thing like a phone conversation go to where it's not being used as much by younger people and everything. So banks, the same thing. Like, as young people are more technologically advanced and comfortable using a phone for everything, and banks don't pay any interest. It's not like the 80s where, hey, you're getting big interest. You want to walk into that bank and open up that account and
get a toaster or something.
Get a toaster and great interest. And hell, I mean, if that was still the case, I'd be more about banking. But it's not. So I don't see in the future banks being around anymore. I mean, not in the retail manner. Like, why do they need to own all this real estate? I mean, they have such liabilities in real estate, leases,
taxes,
and properties, taxes. I mean, they don't need to do that. They can cut out all the fat. And my promise to everybody, and I'll tell your audience as well, if you have a promise and the more people you tell, the more likely you are to actually do it and come true on it. I really don't like Bank of America. They've driven me crazy in this payments business for years. They're very unfair to their customers. And my way to get back at them is when they close their retail branches in my area, which will come soon, I'm going to lease one of their spaces and I'm going to turn it into the Litecoin Learning Center. And this is going to be like, people are going to be like, well, I thought that was a bank. Come in. This is a new type of bank. We want you to come in and we'll teach you about Litecoin. And we'll have seminars there. And so that's my promise to your audience.
All right, John. I'll tell you what. I'd like to have you on either when that happens or before that happens, but hopefully it'll be soon. How's that sound?
We'll have a lot of money by that point in time, so we'll have a nice celebration by then.
All right. John, thank you very much for joining me and sharing your expertise. And keep up the good work, and we hope to have you back. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it, all right? Take care, everybody.